Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I think we're waiting on one more, but we'll jump to him whenever we get here. I am Jared Clary with Omnimedia, chair of the Small Business Council here at the Columbia Chamber. We're really excited about today's talk, just about the overall health of your business, how to make sure you have a healthy business. What are some of the steps in place to make sure that you are moving in the right direction or trending in the right direction? There's been lots of talk, especially over the past year, about funding and making sure you have the back of house, so to speak, in your business. Got your I's dotted, your T's crossed, so when funding and projects and things like that become available, you can have access to those, and there's no waiting in between, and there's nothing that you need to maybe adjust to. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we introduce our panelists, I want to kick it over to Chair of the Northeast Connection, Ann Thomason. See if Ann, do you have anything? And then over to Susan for a chamber update.
Hey guys, I just wanted to thank everybody for being here. We put a lot of thought into how to run these meetings for this year, and we hope that the selections we've had that you find helpful and beneficial to your business. So we just appreciate you being on.
Thanks, Ann. Susan, you have anything from the chamber?
Just a good morning, welcome. Thank you to everybody, and thank you to our committee and our panelists. We appreciate all that you're doing. Carl is still working very actively, sharing information about the city's property tax study. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask us, or also feel free to go on the chamber website and you can look at these tax study and also hear the last presentation that was done regarding the tax study with Daniel Rickman and Rebecca Gunlinson, who did the study. So it's quite interesting. It'll give us a blueprint for moving forward on how do we create some additional efficiencies in the city on behalf of making it a more business-friendly environment and attracting more business. So that's great. Our next issues forum will be on the first Tuesday in February. We have invited Mayor Benjamin right now, so we're waiting to hear back from him. He's had a really busy week, but obviously so much going on in the city that he can share with us. So we'll hope to have some additional information on that. And then we have our CIA awards coming up. So a lot of great things coming up. Jared, I'll get the dates and all that and put them in the chat box.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan. So I want to introduce our panelists today. First, panelists, y'all, for organizational, I guess I'll introduce you real quick. Feel free to take a couple minutes to say what it is you do, where you work, and what you do. And first, Aisha Driggers.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone this morning. I'm Aisha Driggers with the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities. I'm the program administrator in our office, responsible for training and technical assistance. The purpose of our office is to help businesses grow or expand, or if an entrepreneur is interested in starting a business, we can walk them through that process. So I'm glad to be here today.
Thanks, Aisha. And all of our panelists are going to be going over some very valuable information, and we want to be here for you as chamber partners and just to add value to you in general. So panelists, can y'all go ahead and drop your contact information in the chat for our attendees today, just in case they have any questions at the end. And my second panelist I'll introduce is Mr. David Belton.
Good morning, everyone. I'm David Belton with the Dowl and Company PC. We are a full-service CPA and consulting firm. At the firm, I'm an accountant and also a QuickBooks Pro advisor.
Thanks, David. Next, I'll have Mr. Nick Annan.
Hey there, Nick Annan. I'm a CPA and a senior manager at Elliott Davis, accounting firm, consulting firm in downtown Columbia. And my role specifically is around outsourced accounting and CFO and controller services.
Appreciate it, Nick. And last but not least, or at least for now, Mr. Will Holmes.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, Jared. My name is Will Holmes. I'm a commercial banker with PNC Bank here in Columbia. We help clients try to meet their working capital and equipment financing, real estate needs. Offices down on Gervais Street, and I think we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I think most people know the PPP portal opened this morning, so I was at it bright and early trying to get some of that done. So look forward to talking about that later.
Awesome. Yeah, we have some local experts, people here just to make sure to add value to you, people that have been dealing with a lot of the PPP, a lot of regulations with business over the past years, helping businesses gain access to funding to stay open and keep the doors open and keep going. So my first question will be for Ayesha Driggers. Ayesha, what are some of the first things, or at least the things that you need to do from a back house standpoint, registering your business within the city, the county? What are some of the things, the first things that you would advise a business would need to do?
Okay, so one of the first things is to make sure you have a business license. And you really need to make sure any municipality that you're working in, even if your business is not located within that municipality, check and make sure what their laws are or what their regulations are as they relate to business license. So in the city, if you're located in the city or you plan to do business within the city, you need to have a business license. And to have a license, and I'll put the site information in the chat, but you need to make sure you have your gross revenue that your business receives, the type of business you have, and depending on the type of business, there may be some additional steps regarding if the fire marshal needs to come and visit your business, if it's a brick and mortar business, if there is any zoning requirements associated with your business. So it's always a good idea to contact the business license department to determine what you need to do, because there is a penalty if you're operating within the city and you do not have a business license. So it's always good to ask that question if you are considering that. In addition to that, if you want to bid on a project within the city, you need to register with our eBid system. And I'll also provide that in the chat as well. And what it does is it allows you to receive automatic alerts whenever there's an opportunity that matches the commodity code that you select. So let's say you're a construction company and a construction project is let, then you will receive an automatic email that lets you know that you need to respond to that solicitation. And that goes for anything that we put out into eBid, you will receive an automatic alert. So I would encourage everyone to sign up for eBid, even if you're not sure if the city will need your services. It's a good idea to go ahead and get signed up, because we might receive a reference request from another industry that needs your services, and we'll have your information in our system. So I will also provide that in the chat as well to sign up for eBid.
Awesome. Lots of information within the city, especially within Ayesha's office of opportunities for business. It's the Office of Business Opportunities. So I think just being aware of the things that you can do and that you're eligible for are something that is something that everyone needs to do, every business needs to do. And obviously you need to leverage the Office of Business Opportunities as a resource. Second question will be for David Belton. David, what are some of the things you've seen from a business standpoint that businesses need to have early, so within their first few years in business? What do they need to have from a tax standpoint, a financial standpoint? What are they looking at? What are some of those key things that they need to look at?
So I'll name just 3 key things that's very important, which helps with not only just to get loans or different contracts, but also to see where your growth is. And one of those is, as a business owner, you want to have some type of accounting system that tracks all your expenses and income. That produces financials that you can provide to a banker, or if different folks for the contracts, if they need them, you have them on hand. The second thing I'll say is once you have the system in place to track your income and expenses, you must reconcile your account. And through the accounting system, it would allow you to do that. But a lot of times that catch any errors that may have been made. But just for a little example, we had a client, there's to reconcile their account, but actually they overstated their income through not reconciling. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. So by us going in there and showing them, hey, you need to go back and reconcile your accounts for the entire year to clear it out, it took care of that. So that's one of the important phases of reconciling. The next thing, after all that is done, these are all steps in order. You'll have financials, which is the balance sheet and P&L, and the profit and loss income statement is the same. It's really showing just what your gross and all your expenses, and then your profit. In that, in the profit, if you're trying to reach a certain target, you can review your statement and say, hey, I need to do this, I need to advertise this place, or however, I need to go get a contract, like Aisha said, and see if there's bids out there. But that's how those financials will help you. And with the balance sheet, it shows, where your assets, how much money I have in the bank, my payables, liabilities, how much I owe, then your equity, what my business is worth and more. There's a lot in that, but those are the three basics I would definitely have when I'm starting a business.
I caught something in the beginning that you said using some type of system to track your financials, right? Would that be a QuickBooks? Is that what we're talking about? Or what exactly are we, what exactly do you mean by some type of system? What's an example of something like that so people just can connect the dots?
Right, so a system, QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop is perfect. A lot of small business owners and some large, depending on, how big they are, but QuickBooks is, there's not too many systems that would beat it, especially for small business. But that is a perfect system that's simple, and you can have a lot of training just to have it done, have your books in order.
Is that something that you guys would handle, or Elliott Davis, or Nick, you can feel free to chime in. I'm coming to you next. Is QuickBooks training or something like that, is that something that you guys would offer, or some type of advisory?
Yes, as a QuickBooks Pro Advisor here at the firm, we offer training. We offer different options of how they want, but full on training, we do that so they can be prepared.
Awesome.
I was going to say, one thing we see a lot of is organizations moving from the desktop system to the online system. There's a couple situations where it doesn't make sense, but a lot of folks' QuickBooks desktop files do make sense to go to online. I think what you'll see is, if that's the system you're using, Intuit is putting a lot less development resources into the desktop product. You're not going to see very many advances in that product going forward. They're putting a lot of their effort into the online system, and I mean that just kind of makes sense, right, with the way the world's going. They want you on their cloud products. It's recurring revenue for them, obviously very easily predictable, but it also helps them to push out those updates quicker and easier. And it's light years ahead of maybe where if you've used it in the past, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it's a lot different today.
Obviously, I think if anybody's like me, you hear about taxes and things like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. So obviously, it's great to have partnerships and great to have people that you can rely on to give you the proper information. That's why we're here today, is to be able to add value for the areas where you need value. And that's something that we want to always ask is what are some of the things that you guys face from a business standpoint that we can help with? Nick, what is something, or maybe a couple ways across the board, and if you can touch on maybe a smaller business and a larger business, what are some things that you have seen that have prevented people from accessing PPP?
Oh yeah, there's been a number of situations. So first is, David was talking about keeping all your records up to date. It'll be really important as we move into, if you're going for a second draw, that you've got those records, because to take a second draw of the loan, you've got to prove that you had a 25% or greater reduction in your gross receipts in any calendar quarter in 2020 compared to 2019. So right off the bat, if you're not keeping up to date, you're going to be scrambling trying to get that information together. And not that the SBA is going to run out of money in a week or 2 weeks maybe, but it's hard to say when that'll happen. And I hate to see people lose out on money because of that. Certainly, I've seen organizations, some small companies, particularly lose out in misclassifying owners and employees, right? So PPP is contingent upon you having either W-2 employees or certain kinds of self-employed folks. So as a partnership, a sole proprietor, you're not taking a W-2, you're not taking W-2 wages. But if it's on your Schedule C or a partnership return, that's okay. If you've got rental activity and that's on a Schedule E, then that's not allowable for PPP. So I've seen some folks where they had themselves misclassified in the beginning, and that prevented them from getting all their funds.
There's a lot to keep up with, especially from the tax side and the financial side. So my next question, I'm going to come to you, Will. What are some of the things that you've seen in the banking industry with your clients and people accessing loans, and just from an overall informational thing. What are some of the things that you've seen that maybe have been issues, or maybe have been able to help people have success during a time like this?
Yeah, Jared, I think, really talking a lot about what Nick and David mentioned is just having good financial records. We see that, really banks make their decisions based on what your finances are. And the only way that we can do that is by looking at what you give us. And if you don't have a good program in place, you're really going to have a hard time convincing a bank to lend you money. I mean, first of all, it just kind of shows what type of business person you are. If you've got good records, that's a check in the positive for you on the first place. So I think that's really probably the biggest thing, is having those really good records, and then and having a good relationship with the banker. I think bankers that they want to help you, and I think you want to make sure, one of the things they always talk about, don't surprise your banker. So if there's something, if you're working with a banker, something goes wrong, keep them in the loop. Like I said, they're really there to help you.
Awesome. It's important to have those relationships. It's when it's important to connect with the people that are in this meeting. I know we won't all necessarily get a chance to talk to each other, but I encourage everyone to drop your contact information in the chat. Reach out to one another. One of my things that I have really liked to do during this time of virtual relationships is I attend a lot of these meetings like this, and I take a screenshot of the meeting and post it on LinkedIn, tag everybody who's in it. And I tell you that because I don't want to catch you off guard. So I'm gonna give you a chance to position yourself properly. I'm gonna take a screenshot if that's okay with everyone, and look out for a connection from me on LinkedIn. I encourage you all to connect with one another. So I'm gonna take the screenshot in 1, 2, 3. Appreciate it. That's just one way that I have been personally successful, whatever you want to deem success is during the pandemic and building relationships. But I'm going to kick it to one of our panelists. Bryant Davis has arrived. Bryant, why don't you take a second just to introduce yourself, and then I'm going to come at you with a question, or I'll go ahead and ask you the question. Within the county, what have you seen what has been the biggest issue for businesses from a county standpoint that you've seen in your work that you've done during the pandemic?
Sure. So first of all, good morning, everyone. Apologize for being tardy this morning. This was my first day in a while having to take all 3 kids places. So my little virtual learner that became back in school today forgot everything today. So it was a little chaotic itself. So my name is Bryant Davis. I work with Richland County government. I work in a department that's called Government Community Services. So we're a proactive outreach arm of the county. Housed within our department is our Office of Small Business Opportunity. And so very similar to what Ayesha does with the city, we have various workshops, training, and we actually have a certification program that also exists within our office. Jump to your question about what have we seen. So I was able to serve on a review panel with another one of our people in our department with the small business grants and nonprofit grants back in May and June. I think it's interesting, David, Nick, and then Will mentioned some different key components of things that kind of you need to have done kind of in your back office, things you need to be tracking. In reality, when it gets to the county part, that's where all that is really exposed. So someone will submit an application with everything they have, but they're missing certain documents. Maybe for them to operate their mom and pop business, it wasn't important to keep track of all those receipts. It wasn't tracked as to how you particularly paid people or did things. So what ends up happening is this laundry list of things that we need. People are only turning in certain elements of that. One thing that I think that was phenomenal the county tried to do this time was we actually reached out to those people one-on-one. Hey, listen, these are the things that you need to turn in order to make sure your application is complete. That did help with some of the numbers, but what I think a lot of those cases were people didn't have those documents or didn't know specifically what they were. And so that opportunity to connect with a Nick or a David, Or more importantly, and I'm sure Aisha will echo this too, come and talk to us. Give us a call. If you are unsure about what a document is or what it needs to be used for, like, please contact us and let us know. I would rather say, hey, let's see if we can help you figure this out versus not turning in applications. And there were numerous applications that were not completed and they didn't even have the opportunity for funding, not because they weren't worthy of that, but because they didn't turn in what they needed. And so I think that kind of comes to the head of what they're saying, is just making sure that whatever we're asking for, whatever we need, make sure it's turned in. And if there is some abbreviated or other version of that that you can turn in, then you're only going to figure that out by talking to us. So that communication is going to be very, very key.
You don't know what you don't know. So it's important to develop relationships, to have relationships with people who know what you don't know. So that way, if you experience any of these issues or your client experiences any of these issues, you can point them in the right direction. You add value to that relationship. I think that's what it's all about. That's what we try and do here at the Chamber, is just establish connections with Chamber partners and within the community to add value to local businesses. So I'm gonna come to you, Aisha, next. What are some of the types of projects and bids? You know, I feel like some people might think, oh, well, they don't have bids within the city or county for my industry. If you could give just a handful of examples of some of the different types of projects that are available and work that's available within the city or county, that would be awesome.
Okay, so one of the obvious answers to that question is our water and sewer infrastructure. That's the majority of the projects that we put out for bid. Is millions of dollars of projects. But within that, that also includes engineering. There's architectural services, surveying. So even if someone doesn't do construction, there are still a lot of professional service type activities that we have projects for. But then there's also some vertical construction things. So painting, electrical work are things that we do as well. And then one of the important things is, like I said, there are a lot of smaller projects that the city does that may not even go out for bid. So that's why it's so important to be registered in eBid, because some of the projects just require that we contact maybe 3 companies and get some quotes from them. So that's a great opportunity for some of the smaller type of activities that we procure. Of course, we do office supplies as well. And it's very important that the city utilize small minority local businesses in all our procurement. We want to make sure it reflects the diversity of our great city. So that's so important to us that we share in the procurement with some of those smaller businesses. But I would really say any type of business, there may be potential that the city may need your service. Our office, we use catering as well. That's not something that someone may think a municipality would use. Now, we're not doing that right now because we're all in a virtual environment. But when we go back in, when we have events, we have catering. We do graphic design. So when we do flyers and things like that for our events, we will reach out to a small business to help us design those flyers or even help us promote activities. We did a holiday market this past December, and so we needed a videographer and somebody to produce it. So I think there's a lot of very unique ways that the city can use different types of businesses, not just the typical construction that we hear about.
Lots of opportunities, lots of different industries, lots of ways to grow your business. You know, maybe your business doesn't right now. You don't work off of any type of RFP or bidding process, and that's a different dynamic that you can add to your business. Aisha, if you could, just to reiterate, I know you probably have, but if you could drop a link to a website or somewhere people can go to access some more of this information, that would be awesome. My next question will be for David and Nick. So I think what businesses kind of struggle with sometimes is how do we identify what success is, and from a financial standpoint, maybe some KPIs. How do you define, like, okay, maybe we're more successful here in order to grow our business, and that way you can keep on track and kind of have more of a business strategy. What are some of those things that you've seen from just key performance indicators that you can track for your business?
Yeah, I think it's really important. That's really the next level of moving your business forward. Certainly, it's important to have your financial statements prepared timely and reconciled, so you can actually see the historic, journey that your business has been on. But the next step is really, okay, let's look at the things that are actually driving the performance of the business. A lot of times we'll call those key performance indicators, and these are going to be things that are specific to your company, right? So we might say something's a lagging or a leading indicator, right? And use the example all the time of weight loss, right? So pounds lost, that's going to be a lagging indicator. Maybe the leading indicator is, okay, I'm eating, this certain type of healthier food for me. I'm cutting back on my Bojangles. That's going to be your leading indicator. And so similarly for your business, we want to find out, okay, what's going to drive performance. So for instance, I work with a number of law firms and personal injury firms at that. And so leading indicators for them, we're going to see, okay, how many intakes a month are you doing? What's that conversion rate? What's your average case size? And so then we're able to project out, okay, if you're taking in, 100 leads a month and that converts to 25% cases and each case is worth X number of dollars, now we can start to figure out, okay, maybe, in 6 months down the line, you're going to bring in this much and we're able to forecast out performance that way. And so then that's a much more valuable conversation in terms of what's driving someone's business forward. And everyone can kind of get on the same page as far as, what are the activities that we should be doing to drive that forward. So I think it's really important, whoever you're working with in terms of, your accounting relationship, that you have those conversations and see that they may have some access to industry benchmarks, right? So it's important that you understand how your business is doing to other similar organizations. What are they doing that's successful? And so all of those things can come together to really help you.
Right. David, do you have anything to add?
No, I'll just say, just as another example, cutting back expenses could be an option, or how much I spend on the expense. Say, for construction, different contractors, cost of goods, like supplies, materials, or not only just that, but say insurance. Sometimes you need to shop your insurance because you could be paying a lot more, a lot less, but you're paying a lot more because you haven't done your research. If I need to cut back on something that I really don't need, maybe revisit that. We can have a bigger profit and actually use those funds to actually put into something that's going to help me grow. So that's one thing I see a lot. We have some that will do like maybe a 90-day snapshot of their company, looking at their financials, and they can see where they're standing.
I think overall awareness is kind of what I'm hearing from you guys, is just understanding where you're at. And a lot of business owners and business executives get just inundated with everyday work. I'm not a business owner, but I know I'm busy myself, so I can imagine it having to wear so many hats. So it's important to establish relationships and understand the value that you bring to the relationship and how you need to lean on other people to understand the things that you don't know. Will, what have you seen from a banking standpoint for people to really reach that next level? Obviously, more money in than going out is going to help them grow their revenue. But are there anything, I guess, key things that you've seen business owners do over the years that have been able to take them to that next level?
Jared, I don't, that's a really good question. I think a lot of it is, a lot of times it's having a good advisor, whether that's your accountant, whether that's your banker, and doing some of the things that, like Nick said, of, key performance indicators. It's, I think when you're, I keep talking about financial statements, but to me, that's what really, to me, drives everything. And if you don't know what you're doing from a financial standpoint, I've told people before, you're flying blind. You really don't, or if you're a month or two behind on getting your financials prepared, you're flying blind. You don't know what's really going on in your business. And so those that have hired a good as you start to grow, I think another thing is hiring good people. Hire a good CFO. To help you. Somebody, always hire somebody smarter than you if you can. I've seen companies take that next step when they get a really good employee, and especially somebody that can help them work through those things. And, maybe that's, maybe that's just a relationship with the CPA, and like with Nick. I mean, that's kind of what Nick does, and help them just take it to the next level with more improved financial reporting.
Definitely.
Hey, so I do want to add one thing that could drive income. And you may look at, well, this puts me in debt, but sometimes it may make sense. And I say that when we'll talk about having an advisor, but in a role as what Nick and myself do, as far as a piece of equipment, and I'll just use a tree company, they may need I think it's called a spider to, reach higher trees. That's going to help drive their revenue, because now they can go out and do more jobs that will definitely boost their income. And not only that, it's a write-off. So you may, well, if I have this profit, I have to pay so much in taxes. I can offset that by having a piece of equipment that brings much more value to my company as far as a revenue standpoint.
Right. So understanding the other ways that you can generate revenue and maybe opportunity costs, and hey, if we obtain this, then we can perform this service that will help us make more money in the long run. Helps your business become more profitable, and ultimately helps your business grow and reach those next levels. I'm going to kick it back over to Ayesha and Bryant with this question. We're going to wrap up here in the next few minutes and then open up for questions for the attendees. Bryant and Ayesha, we've talked about contracts or having all your ducks in a row so you can access contracts within, whether it's PPP or contracts within the city or county. Is there anything on the horizon for 2021 that we can just make our attendees aware of that that could be happening right now? And then if so, just reiterating that website or where our attendees can go or point people towards to find that information.
You want me to go first, Bryant? Okay. All right. So currently, the city received $2.8 million from the Economic Development Administration in November. So we have that funding available, but I will say that we've received a lot of applications. So I'm not certain that any additional applications would result in an award, just because we have a pipeline of those right now. But it is a revolving loan fund. So as those funds are paid back to the city, we will have funding available again. So I would encourage anyone to check our website, which I've put in the chat, because we will always promote any availability of funding. I think the federal government will continue to send municipalities and local governments funding throughout this year. So we may create some programming this year. I think the Community Development Block Grant has recently awarded the City of Columbia funding. So our office will probably roll out some funding. The bulk of it will relate directly to COVID. So the question will be, how will you prepare, respond, or prevent COVID within your workplace? So however you can make a connection with how you're going to do that with the way that you request the funding will be important. And we will ask for the things that we've discussed today, whether they be profit and loss statements, some type of QuickBooks indicating your revenue and expenses throughout the year. I echo what all the panelists have said. That's been an issue with us with funding that we awarded last year. A lot of our small businesses didn't have that paperwork readily available. So I feel like some of them may have missed the opportunity, but like Bryant said, we did reach out to them, and some of them we were able to work with them where they were. So they might not have the formal statement, but we were able to get the information that we needed to provide the funding. So I would say that look out for CDBG funding coming out of OBO soon. But that can be found on our website. Also, if anyone wants to register to be on our newsletter, I send that out every Friday, and I provide a bunch of information regarding funding opportunities, webinars, just a lot of general information that's very helpful to the business community. So if anyone has any interest in those newsletters, please contact me on that.
Awesome. So I was just going to say, from the standpoint from the county, I think a big part of that is I'm going to do a plug for our our Office of Small Business Opportunity has a workshop next week that's talking about some of these similar things, but more on that real small business level. That I'm going to put that info in the chat for everybody in just a couple minutes. Our Office of Small Business Opportunity also has a schedule of upcoming projects and things that are going on as well. Our transportation projects are continuing as well. We know that does only fit a certain grouping of people, but I would highly encourage everyone to kind of plug in, and I'll put that in the chat as well, our procurement website. So that has everything. So we don't get like an email that says, hey, we're going to release all these projects this week. Tell everybody about it. These things pop up on that procurement site. So it's very, very important. And I think the same with OBO as with OSBO for the county, we're trying to help train people and get them in the mode of expanding their efforts outside of just looking at those projects. We want you to have access to those projects. We want you to get them, but we don't want that to be your only means of finding work. So helping to diversify that through other projects that exist in the city and county, but also, as we talk about other partners, figuring out ways and avenues to get into those too as well. So I'll post those in there, and I'll also post the link for that workshop as well. I would highly encourage businesses to get involved with the city and county workshops, training, understand the process of what you need to do, what you need to have. I think David mentioned, this was probably at a previous meeting we had, but somebody he was able to direct toward one of our websites that actually got a project. And so working with David and having those ducks in a row shows if you got all those things done, just like we talked about with other projects, that makes that road of getting that so much easier because then you're not worrying about all the other paperwork and other issues you have. But I know Aisha and Melissa them do a phenomenal job in terms of their workshops and training. Our small business manager, Erica, and her staff do a phenomenal job as well. So I highly encourage those opportunities when they pop up. Understanding the lingo and what's needed is the biggest part. I would say the project part, I'm sure businesses can handle that part of it, but knowing what that needs to look like and what you need to have is so important in terms of actually getting those opportunities.
And I just want to add one more thing. We do have an upcoming workshop with the wonderful Ron Harvey with Global Core Strategies and Consulting. We're going to have that the first 2 weeks of February. So we will provide that information to you as far as registration and everything. But it's the Developing a COVID Crisis Resilient Business Leader. And we're going to talk about effective leadership skills to lead your business and more effectively. So we are really excited about that. That's always a good time when we can have Ron join us. So I will provide that information as well.
Without a doubt, I know that there will be a ton of value added in that for sure. So I will register as soon as I can. I was just looking back through the chat at all of the information that we have here. Just wanted to remind you guys that if you go to the chat and you click the 3 dots, you can save it. So everybody who's dropped their contact information or some of the links to the websites, you can save that to your desktop. That way you can access it at a later date. So that's all you do is click chat. There's 3 little dots, click that, and you should see where it says save chat. You should be able to save it to your computer. It's really awesome, really useful in times like these. So I want to open it up to the audience, to the attendees. If you guys have any questions for anyone specific or just overall, feel free to ask them in the chat or turn your camera, turn your mic on and ask them to our panelists.
I wanted to chime in while folks are thinking about their questions. One thing to keep in mind, and I don't know if this affects anyone on this call, but maybe it does, or maybe you have a friend that it does. One of the programs to keep in mind that was introduced with the COVID Relief Act, passed at the end of December, is the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. Y'all may also hear it called Save Our Stages. And so for performing arts organizations, production companies, museums, motion picture theaters, organizations like that, they can qualify under this program for up to 45% of their gross receipts from a year. So, I mean, that's can be a huge dollars and certainly much more compared to maybe what you would qualify for under PPP. The application is not out yet. We have not seen one. We just have some basic eligibility requirements along with obviously whatever was put out in the legislation. But key piece here is that you cannot have both PPP and the SVO. We don't know right now if the simple act of applying for, and maybe William, I don't know if you know this, we don't know right now if the simple act of applying for PPP would disqualify you from the SVO, but certainly we're just kind of waiting to get a little more information before we advise someone who fits the SVO eligibility requirements to do that. And the other thing to be thinking about, those of you with employees, is the employee retention credit. So that was part of the CARES Act last year, and then was kind of refreshed with the COVID Relief Act. And it's a tax credit for the first 2 quarters of this year. You actually claim it on your payroll tax returns, and it can be worth up to $7,000 per person per quarter. Now you have to have suffered some revenue losses or been shut down by the government during a certain period of time. And so just, an extra, a little bit that can help your business. So once again, in all these programs, you can't double dip. So if you get PPP right now, you have to use up those funds before you can actually get the ERC. But, definitely something to be asking your CPA and payroll company to help out with if that might fall into your situation.
Thanks, Nick. Does anybody have any questions?
Jared, can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is Danielle Page with ADP. Sorry, I was having some virtual fun things going on trying to get into the meeting and everything, but I think I have everything working now. I just wanted to say I appreciate everyone that presented today and really helped guided a lot of our small businesses when it comes to the PPP. With me working with ADP as a district manager, we have these questions come to us all the time. And a lot of my clients are here in the Northeast. So this is the first time I've been able to participate in anything with the Chamber for the Northeast. So wanted to thank you and thank everyone, all the panelists as well for providing your expertise today.
Thank you. So we do this in case anybody else is attending for the first time. We do this the 3rd Tuesday of every month, different topics every month. So next month, we won't be talking anything about this. So be on the lookout for the link to register for next month. We're really excited about that. Also, some other things that are coming up within the Chamber is January 27th is Columbia Chamber Partner Orientation. And that really helps you figure out how to maximize your partnership within the Chamber. So which one of these virtual webinars should you attend or adds the most value to your business? So there's different programming within the Chamber, and that partner orientation really can help you meet the right people to get you pointed in the right direction, get you plugged in the right spot. I also see Leadership Columbia Alumni Association is having their is it a webinar? Or Susan, if you want to chime in on this, I'm trying to scroll back through the chat. That's January 19th, 12 to 1. If you want to add a little bit about that, Susan.
Yes, that is the leadership conversation, and that is with hang on a minute, I'm backing up too. I put it in the chat box so that you can all go there and you can also register. But Patrick Kelly, who is the Director of Government Affairs with the Palmetto State Teachers Association, is going to be on. And that is a regular meeting that they do where they bring in all of the Leadership Columbia alumni members, and anybody that wants to participate can really do that. It is a Zoom call, so it's always very interesting. It's always great to hear what's going on and what our graduates of Leadership Columbia are doing. And that leads me to the point that we also, Leadership Columbia applications are now being accepted. So if you want to know about all the inner workings of the city and the county and the state, it is an excellent program to get acquainted with 60 other great leaders who we're hoping that will continue to help move the city forward. So applications are being taken now. If you apply before January the 22nd, you get a 50% discount. And then there is a March deadline for all applications. If you want to know more about that, we'd love to have you give us a call. You can talk with Hillary, myself, or anybody from the Chamber, and we'll let you know all the wonderful projects of Leadership Columbia. So, and then Jared, what?
Participate in? Yeah, it's awesome. I haven't participated yet. I'm hoping to this next coming year, so hopefully I'll get accepted. But everyone that I know that has done it, speaks nothing of the utmost value to how it adds value to their relationships and their business. Ann, I want to kick it over to you. Do you have anything to say or anything to add before we go?
I'm going to put in a plug for Leadership Columbia. I know there's a couple other graduates from my class. We were the COVID class, so we got, our year was a little bit interesting. So I'd almost like to go through it again and not miss the last 3 months. But it is a great program. If you want to find out what's going on in Columbia and get to meet other like-minded, civic-minded individuals, it was a ton of fun. So I would highly recommend anybody who hasn't done that. So Jared, get on it. Otherwise, so Jared,
best class ever, right, Ann?
that's right. As Jared mentioned, next month, the topic will be different, but it will still be focused on Business 101. So as we go through the next several months, the idea is the same, but hopefully the topic will be something that adds on and continues to be beneficial. So we hope to see y'all and definitely invite anybody that could find this beneficial as well.
Absolutely.
Third Tuesday of the month. I think that's February 16th. So look out for the information from the chamber. There's also plenty of links here in the chat that I'm seeing. Remember to save the chat, click the 3 dots, save chat. That's all for me. Panelists, if y'all have anything to add real quick, or if anybody from the audience has anything to add, I'll close my mouth, and I appreciate you all for coming. I look forward to seeing you next month. That's it for me.
Thanks everyone for participating. Y'all stay healthy and happy. Good
Bye,
luck.
y'all. Have a great week.
Bye. Take care. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Thanks.